We hope you are fine. I'm very enjoy to be here with you today. Dear all, I would first like to start by apologize for my level of English. I still hope to honor this role and all the people who will speak today and those who will follow this discussion. I have next to me Ségolène Brouet. Hi. Member of our association who will be help me for the backup if needed. I thank her very much for help. Thanks to Jill and Rajagopal for the trust, their inspiration, or their support. It's an immense privilege to be able to work alongside them. Okay. My name is Isabelle. I'm from Switzerland. I'm part of the MILMI Association as secretary. The association has been committed since 2015 to the dynamics and values of Jagat. The objective is to mobilize people around the question of human rights, youth, ecology, and the economy. All these questions are immensely linked. The challenge is to be in the concrete so that the real change can be woven together. The subject discussed today concerns young people and students who are mobilizing and engaging in movements concerning the climate crisis and also the question of the rights of refugees. The climate crisis is linked to the migration problem to a certain extent because, more broadly, the ecological impacts are linked to the economic and political aspects. Jagat is a social inclusive movement. It becomes fundamental today to connect, to join forces and to be able to share because we are all concerned. The young people who are mobilized for the climate says, we don't have a plan B. We only have one planet, one house. This is why today people from different places in the world intervene. Armenia, Mexico, France, Canada, India, Switzerland. All the issues addressed today are the manifestation of different forms of violence. Violence against human beings, violence against our earth. It's therefore essential to take time to put the questions of violence and therefore non-violence into perspective so that the energy mobilized is not a 10th intergenerational revolution, but the proposal for a real paradigm shift. Okay, I'm very glad and very happy to be able to share the role and prepare the session with Arpine from Armenia. It's wonderful to get in touch with you, Arpine. Are you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Isabel, and thank you for introducing me. Hello, all the panelists. It is very exciting to be co-facilitating with Isabel this panel.
Yes.
Dear viewer, very briefly introduce you our amazing participants today. And then, of course, they will introduce themselves and their work in more details. We are going to host today Monica from Mexico, and she's a peace educator there. And she works with different groups with high level of violence in Mexico, empowering them with non-violence. She has, for example, been part of the campaign demanding truth and justice for missing and killed people in the context of war in Mexico. And for already 1 year, Monica is also part of Jagat, working with communications. Our next, then we have Sandy from France, who is a member of Alternativa Citizen Movement, and she is also a spokesperson from ANV COP21, the Nonviolent Action of COP21, and she will bring in the discussion, the European perspective to the climate change and refugee crisis in our discussion. Our another speaker is Jean Valentin, who lives in Switzerland. He is a climate activist and he also studies environmental diversity. He's active in Jagat at national level in Switzerland, and he's also engaged in bringing up the climate justice and the climate issue together with nonviolence for the young people, engaging young people in climate change with nonviolence. We also have with us Julia from Canada. She is a community activist. She has been participating and leading the fossil fuel divestment campaign in her university in Canada. And then she also co-founded the Climate Strike Canada, which is a nationwide network of young people which coordinate climate justice demonstrations. And she will talk about intersections, about indigenous sovereignty, promoting indigenous rights and climate, and also the women's perspective in all the struggles and nonviolence. And finally, we have Anish from Ekta Parishad in India. He is working to bridge the gap between rural and urban spaces in a newly founded campaign, and he works for mobilizing youth to engage them in upliftment of marginalized communities. Give you a brief picture of how we will move on today with this webinar. We are going to have 5 presentations by our panelists, and then we will have a 5-minute break, and then we will come back and continue with question and answer to the panelists. And of course, we encourage also very much that the viewers of the webinar actively participate with your own questions to the panelists. Thank you very much. And now I would like to pass the word to Monica. Please, Monica.
Yes, thank you so much, Arpin and Isabel. And thank you, everyone, to be here. I'm very, very happy to share a little bit of my experience here and also to get to know about yours. And well, I mean, as we have only 10 minutes, I will try to be brief. I have prepared some lines also because my English is not the best. So this way is easier. Okay, can you hear me well, right? When I was at the university in 2014, studying a course on peace and nonviolence, in Mexico we were living under the effects of a war for the monopoly of drug trafficking among various criminals groups and state authorities. A war that in its most painful phase has left tens of thousands of missing people and hundreds of thousands of people murdered and displaced from their territories, while at the same time it has generated dehumanizing ways of sociability as well as a fractured social network in communities, a word that, by the way, has declared by the state in the name of peace and security. In this context, with a group of friends and colleagues, we decided to organize spaces to reflect with other people outside the university on what does peace meant for us, no? Trying to deconstruct the idea of armed peace that the government was sort of spreading with its military practices. And we wanted to understand better our ways of living violence, which were very normalized, and most of all, our capacity to transform them. Thus, we began to share workshops with different groups in museums, in schools, with children, with migrants, and later on with educators and young and women activists. Um, We address different issues according to the respective groups, like fears, discrimination, gender violence, health, conflict resolution, among others. Of course, we started without experience, just with some theoretical tools from some authors like Freire, Lederac, Jean Piaget, from our professor, Pietro Meglio. But little by little, we have consolidated our own methodological basis through a process of action reflection or reflection and action, a process of constant feedback after each workshop, which can allow us to become aware of what we have learned, what we did not work as we thought it would, and in order to try new things for the next times to improve our practice. Throughout this process, there are two pillars that have guided and challenged us. The first was it is related to seeking the congruence between peace as content and peace as an educational relationship. This is also very much related with non-violence in Gandhi. As he said, the seed is the means, the tree is the end. So if we want non-violence and peace, we need to cultivate them in our own practices. But of course, it isn't easy. No? It will not happen automatically because our social order is full of contradictions. But at least we can try to be aware of these contradictions and remain looking for that congruence. In the workshops, we have learned it is not enough to stimulate a reflection on certain problems if it's not done through means and values that contribute to the construction of our violence in that educational space itself, no matter how small it is. This is a great challenge, especially in spaces where there is a deeply disciplinary, hierarchical, and heteronomous structure, for example, in schools. It is very difficult to break with these operations for a limited time of our interventions. It requires a long process, and that's how we realized that it made more sense to carry out the workshops with educators and teachers as well. The second pillar is that education has no point if it does not lead to transformative actions, if it doesn't allow us to generate changes in ourselves and in our societies. Over these years, we have found that for this to happen, it's very important to do a contextual situation exercise to identify concrete conditions and needs of each group. That is why we like to start by mapping and analyzing these concrete situations of violence that the participant experience. We like to reflect and build knowledge about our own experiences because it is from the situations that affect us most closely from which we can take more responsibility and therefore in which we have more possibilities to act. We as facilitators are the main ones to be trained and educated in this process. So for example, in our case, we were aware of the stories of the thousands of missing people, but it was something that felt beyond us at that moment. And when we heard for the first time the testimonies of the families of our own fellows from our own university who had disappeared and been killed, we realized that it was a problem closer to us than we thought. And we felt that the university, as a federal institution with all its legal, academical, and moral resources, had the responsibility to support the families, to demand truth, justice, and a guarantee of non-repetition for all of them. We thought that maybe we couldn't respond or do much for the thousands of people, but that if each university or each community take the responsibility to stand up and support their own people, then it's possible to do something meaningful. Thus, we started a collective to appeal to the authorities of the university to make the resources available. However, we knew that they would not listen to us if we were only 10 people, because the families had already tried before and authorities didn't help. So we started making a whole visual campaign, making videos to share the stories of our fellows, um, organizing forums for the families to share their testimonies. And that's how we started to engage more and more students and teachers and people. And that's how we slowly built a community, which later on would be heard by the authorities and be organized to support the families each time. So I guess to conclude, we have learned that indignation has also a fundamental place in our struggles and in our educational processes. When we started both projects, what brought us together, like the only thing we were clear about, we were not very clear on what was happening then and what would be the results, but we were clear about what the feeling of anger and discontent of the situation. So even if it appears confusing at first, when it is shared with others, it can become a creative possibility for change. I do believe that we can strain ourselves to act when we recognize that things should be and could be different. And in a context with such level of impunity and normalization of violence, this means that we must also train ourselves to be intolerant of it. And I think that's a very important part of the peace education. but seeking to claim with our actions the social relations we do want to build, in mutual care and mutual support and joy and love. And well, I think that's it for now. Thank you very much.
Okay, incredible, Monica. You look like so young, but you have an amazing experience. It's incredible. You are a great asset today, and you're sharing experience of high level of violence. And today, we think you could have a very good idea, solution, or track about the violence problem, and to help the group to have a good and deep reflection today, isn't it? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, now let me introduce, please, Sandy. Sandy, where are you?
I'm here.
Here,
Do you see me?
okay.
Yes.
Hello, Sandy.
Hello.
You are coming. You are from France. So you are living in Paris, and you have an alternativa organization.
Yes, that's it.
Okay,
Yes.
please.
Yes. Thank you, Isabel, and thank you, everybody, for inviting us. And like Monica, I'm really happy to be here. It's a real pleasure. And also, like Monica, my English is not so perfect, so I I will have some paper. So to start, like Isabel said, I'm Sandy. I'm 24 years old. I live in France. I grew up in a small village, but now I'm living next to Paris. And I'm engaged in the movement Alternativa since a year and a half. So about Alternativa, we have many local groups everywhere in France, but also there is one, for example, in Haiti. And so in one sentence, Alternativa is acting for climate and social justice. Um, and so to start and to tell you a little bit about my engagement story, it all started with the climate march in 2018. I marched because of all the climate disaster, the impact on the people all over the world, and also because of the inaction of the French government about it. And so after all of that, I wanted to get involved a lot more. So I decided to get fully involved in Alternativa, in the local group of Paris. And so I think it's important to say that what immediately appealed to me with Alternativa was the fact that we are acting at the local level in order to have an impact on our territories, but also an impact at the national level, at the European level, and of course at the international level. So so I started to organize some march, and I also participate at some non-violent, civil disobedience action. And for example, I participate in action called in France Décrochons Macron. So to explain you, the idea is to go to town halls in France and to get a portrait of Emmanuel Macron. The idea here was to denounce the inaction of our president in terms of climate and social policy, because today France absolutely does not respect the Paris Agreement, so that is completely illogical. So in this kind of action, we really use non-violence as a strategic tool in our actions. And so about those actions called Décrochons Macron in France, and even intentionally, sorry, a lot of media have talked about this action, and today we have 70 trials that are taking place throughout France for this action. And I think, and we think, that this is the strength of non-violent action. Is like you are putting your adversary to take into consideration our request in his decision, at risk of being opposite to active non-cooperation, or having their image attacked, of course. So it's like, you know, it's so important that those kind of action that they they can't not say anything. So that this is why we are using non-violent strategy in our action. And I think it's also important to say that non-violence at Alternativa is also a question of culture, and not only for our action. It's a question of culture and a vision of the society we want to create. We want society that are more united, of course, more sustainable, more respectful of humans. And so we put action on training in non-violent action, non-violent communication, non-violent regulation of conflict, and culture of non-violence, sorry, in all our movements. So especially we pay attention to parity in speaking, to highlight women, to highlight minority, and everything like that. So the culture of non-violence between activists is the prerequisite for a change of paradigm shift. And so we immerse ourselves in this culture, in what this whole notion of non-violence by following training, by spread it through our collective. And so, for example, if someone is cutting the word off to someone else, it's immediately noticed, and the person apologize, or it's called. Yes, so we pay attention of everything like that, because we think that changing the system means changing mentalities, giving back citizen power, the power to make change. And so I think that for me, Alternativa was a real school of non-violence, but also a political and technical organization through the organization of the logistic of march, through the practice of communication and everything like that. And so to highlight that, this year we are organizing what we are calling climate camps in more than 15 territories in France this summer, with the order that we want to give at the local level citizen tools to citizens, sorry, in order to organize themselves. So, and in addition, we are it's really important for us because we are also working on the question of the alternative, not only on the civil disobedience, but also in order to propose something with the alternatives, in order to transform our territories on the local scale. So what of our campaign is called Alterteri, like territory, to allow a transformation in our territories, which takes account about the realities of these territories, the culture of these territories, the people of these territories, and that's why we have done what we call the village of alternatives, the Alternativa Tour, or even the climate march and everything like that. So we can say that we are in the bottom-up change, and we are also, of course, calling the government every time to tell them that they have to be courageous and that they have to act now in order to limit the climate crisis. And I just about the European level, we are working on the local level in order to have an impact on the national level and the European level, and in order to be able to welcome people in fact of climate crisis. And I think it's really really important. And I will conclude with that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Very captivant, you know, captivant. uh, we know that you speak, you highlighted about the non-action, the inaction of government, and you explain that you try to oblige the government to take responsibility, okay? And it's interesting, you show the importance of non-violence in your action. And you speak about to be non-violence, it's okay, but we need some technical, des outils techniques,
tools, technical
tools, technical tools, and technical solution if we want to change something or to be in the concrete. It's very interesting. Very. Thank you so much. You help us today.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Now I'm glad to introduce now Jean Valentin. Yes, Jean Valentin, you are living in Switzerland, and you are just the room next door to us today. We are very lucky. we are working together since a couple of years, and I'm very lucky to know you.
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you. So, hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for the invitation. I also feel very honored to be able to speak with you today and to also share my experience and learn from yours. I think it's going to be very interesting. So, my name is Jean Valentin. I'm 20 years old, and I'm a young climate advocate and climate activist. Active in two organizations here in Switzerland. So the first one is Swiss Youth for Climate, and the second one is the association The Meal in Me. So as Isabel, and I'll explain a bit more about these two organizations and basically what we are doing here. So Swiss Youth for Climate is an NGO that was founded in 2015 by young people and for young people. We are active on the local, national, and international level, actually. I think it's a bit the same as Alternativa. And we basically focus on four main goals. The first one is to really raise awareness about the climate crisis and share knowledge about it. The second one is to really collaborate. We like to collaborate with other organizations, other associations, because we really believe that it is by getting together and creating movements that we can really have a big impact, especially in regards to the climate crisis. Our third goal is really to be active on the policy level and with lobbying actions. So we have the chance to participate every year at international negotiations as part of the Swiss civil society. And this is a big chance for us to also speak up and have a little impact, even if it's quite little. But then on the national level, we really are acting for an ambitious climate policy. We, for example, created a project that is called Adopt a Decision Maker, where we get in contact with parliamentarians, with politicians, and the idea is really to exchange information and share the climate science with them, so that they really also get the information to take decisions. And we really think in that way we can also have an impact. So that is one of our big projects on the regional and national scale. And then the fourth goal is really to get young people involved, and I think it's the most important one. We have regional groups all across Switzerland, and the idea is really to get in touch with young people, and that young people can come up with ideas, and we help them with tools, with networks and experience, so that we can really build concrete projects. on a local level. And I think it's in that way for us, it's really important to have local projects and then inspire other people on the global level and change something. So in Switzerland, we had also a lot of climate strikes and climate marches in which we participated. And I was very happy last year to see that there was one in Bern that we organized and participated in which 100,000 people participated. So 100,000 people were marching in the capital of Switzerland in Bern. And this had quite a big impact because 1 or 2 weeks later, we actually had the federal elections. And for the first time, we had a lot of politicians from the Green parties that were actually elected. And it also, we can see it right now in the decisions that it is changing slowly, but it is changing. So that is for us one of the levels on which we should also have action if possible, along with the projects on a local scale. And the reason why I got to join the Jagat campaign is because as I'm active in the association, the Meal in Me, which is a little village near Geneva, I met Rajagopal and Jill a few years ago, and I really connected with this Jagat project because I think it's really important to have such a global movement to inspire people all over the world and really have this big project to raise awareness, because right now we are having a lot of little projects in different regions of the world, and we really have to connect all that to have a transition in terms of a paradigm shift. So since then, I really believed in this project, and also the fact that it's a humanistic movement, because we talk a lot about transition, about building a resilient society, a resilient economy, but it's not only about investments, it's not only about the technological point of view, but it's really about creating a sense of community. And I think that's also why we are here today, and to build projects at the local level that can inspire other people in the world. So and with the association, we always believe that the young people was really one of the most important aspects in that way. So we organized here in local schools some workshops about climate change and nonviolence, because as I said, for us it's really important, because I guess it's through education that we can have the biggest impact in terms of changing our society and our economy today. And it's also very important to think about new stories. What do we really want to see today in this world? And that's why we did that. And the non-violence for me is very essential in solving the climate crisis as well, because we know that the consequences of climate change in terms of resources, in terms of natural disasters, the consequences will be dramatic if we don't act right now. And this could lead to conflicts, this could lead to violence, obviously climate refugees, that is one of the biggest impact we will also have in the future. And that's why we really have to get on with nonviolence, to get together in a peaceful way and to prevent this from happening. And nonviolence is also about being inclusive. And the sentence we really like to remember ourselves all the time is "no one left behind," because especially for us living in Switzerland, for example, we are living in a very wealthy country, and we do not have to forget that a lot of countries in the world that they don't have the same privilege as we do. And especially when we want to find solutions in regards to the climate crisis, we really have to keep this in mind. And that's why I think it's important to also think about this. And I think also the nonviolence is a tool that we can use to not always be against something, because I think for some cases it's quite difficult to practice nonviolence, but in a lot of cases it's I think it has a bigger impact if we promote the benefits of doing something in another way instead of being against something. So, for example, to give you a short example, if we, for example, say that we cannot afford ecologically to have cars anymore, you won't say to somebody, sorry, that you cannot have your car anymore. So let's do it that way. You have to tell them that we can find new stories, that we can find new ways to move, to travel, and that it is a question of human and ecological well-being. We will live better after this. So that is really my point of view, and why I'm also active in these two different organizations that are quite complementary. So that's it.
Thank you, Jean-Valentin. You are very inspired. Your impact with your association is great. Don't worry, it's okay. Because you propose to create a new world and to write a new story. It's very interesting. We can remember that you said your organization is by young people and for young people, and addressed to young people, to mobilize the young people. And you are the leader of tomorrow. The young people are must to be present today, because tomorrow it's your world, and you are leading the change.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, very inspired. Thank you so much, Jean-Valentin.
Thank you.
See you soon. And now we are going to Canada. Julia, you are here? Hi.
Hi.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Julia. Welcome. I'm glad to introduce you. You are living in Canada. Yes?
Yeah.
Could you explain who you are and what you are doing?
Yeah, for sure. So I live on the very northwest coast of Canada on a little triangular island called Haida Gwaii. And I was born in the city and then moved here when I was 3. So how I really came into activism was through fossil fuel divestment campaigns at my university. And since graduating, I've come back home here to get more involved in the community.
Do you want to tell us more about what you're doing, Julia?
Yeah. Should I just give my whole spiel now? Is that I can present what I have to say?
Yes.
I wasn't sure if that was like an intro. Okay.
No, you can
Okay,
go
I'll
ahead and
just
tell
go
us
ahead.
everything you want to tell.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Sounds good. So first of all, I just want to acknowledge that I am on Haida land. This isn't my land. I'm an immigrant here as a settler, and this whole island is unceded land of the Haida Nation. And it's important that as a settler, I recognize and acknowledge, and I'm continually aware of the dynamics that are at play when I'm on someone else's land and what laws and values uphold this place. So a bit about me. Yeah, I mentioned I became really empowered as a leader in my young adulthood at university when I found a community of people I connected with and started going to classrooms at school and trying to get people involved in the fossil fuel divestment campaign. And later I formed, with a few other people, a network of young people across Canada called Climate Strike Canada. And the goal of that is to really coordinate massive non-cooperation actions and have really hard-hitting, non-violent actions that put pressure on the national government to take climate action seriously. And what I want to focus on today, being in Canada, is the intersection of climate justice and Indigenous sovereignty. So something that I frequently ask myself is what do I really mean by climate justice? You know, I don't just mean food, things like that. Really, at its basis, the climate justice movement in Canada, at least, is redefining to put Indigenous sovereignty at the forefront of the movement, because it really matters whose land we're on. We're a very young country. That was built on the theft of land and the genocide of peoples and of cultures. And many of these people are still around. You know, the nations are still legitimate and asserting their power, but maybe not recognized by the Canadian government. So our government is, from some perspectives, an illegitimate source of power, especially with respect to its treatment of Indigenous peoples. So in Canada, these communities and communities of color are most affected by climate change, no surprise, and are at the front lines of the struggle against corporate domination. There's many active situations right now in Canada where Indigenous communities are fighting on the land to defend their territory from corporations and government intruding on their territory for extraction. Recently, right before COVID, there was Wet'suwet'en Nation protests. So they're a nation near Haida Gwaii, a few hours drive from where I am. And it was massive. It got national headlines. There were rail blockades, shut down major train routes, a lot of interesting nonviolent techniques to just really put like economic pressure on the government to meet with the hereditary chiefs of that nation to discuss what's going on. And so that's an ongoing struggle, but we've seen great gains for Indigenous rights there. Because at its heart, you know, the climate justice movement is pushing for a type of Indigenous worldview instead of the materialistic one we've all grown up in. And we're only committing mistakes of past environmental organizations if we choose not to realize our own complicity in the status quo as non-Indigenous people and the legitimacy of Indigenous nations on this land. So when we give them a voice, it really advances the situation for all of us. And next thing I want to talk about is, given the recent Black Lives Matter protests and the culture of, you know, the anti-racism struggle that's in the air right now, that's something that really comes into play with the climate justice movement in Canada here too. So much of the movement here is white, and in many cases it's uncomfortable for BIPOC, so Black, Indigenous people of color, to be part of spaces and systems where they don't feel they belong. So an anti-racist and intersectional approach to climate justice organizing is really key, realizing that climate crisis and systemic racism are deeply intertwined and can't be treated as separate issues. Me needing to get over our defensiveness and discomfort with talking about racism and being able to recognize it in ourselves because of the society we've grown up in, so that we can move forward constructively and transform these deeply held collective assumptions. And of course, I mean, I'm so grateful to be in a room with people from all over the world, and it really reminds me that racism isn't only ingrained in our systems and our borders. Like, looking at global patterns of environmental injustice, we see clearly that we export, you know, so much of our polluting industries and waste to countries in the global south, and affecting people of color massively more than people in Canada. So that disparity of climate consequences is another dimension to climate justice and racism. At the same time, Indigenous women face extraordinary hardship when we look at the impacts of colonialism and industry. For example, there's a lot more rape and drug abuse that take place near man camps where men are working on industrial projects, which are usually like totally fossil fuel burning horrible things. Or the thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women that are currently being neglected by our criminal justice system and government right now. Thousands. And it's an ongoing national case. So climate justice is really about racism. It's about Indigenous sovereignty. It's about the patriarchy. And it's a women's issue. So many of the most powerful voices right now in the movement are Indigenous women in Canada. And a key part of women's empowerment that we see in Haida Gwaii too is really like supporting the men in their lives. So that's something I'm trying to do with, I'm part of a youth center here in Skidegate. And one of our main goals is really supporting the mental wellness and cultural empowerment of people here, because we find that once people develop a stronger cultural identity, it improves every aspect of their life, their happiness, their ability to create and contribute to the community. So that's our goal. One last little, I guess I'll bring it a little bit more local to Haida Gwaii and what I've learned and what we're doing. So on Haida Gwaii, it's a town of 1,000 people where I am, and it's 4,000 people in the whole island. So quite small. You know everybody, you know, when you walk to the grocery store, oh hi, hi. So we have two youth groups, one in the north, one in the south, that are environmental justice themed. And they really work to uphold Haida values and protect the land. As a settler, I've learned really lots of tips about how to be a good ally, you know, learning the laws of the land, like respect, reciprocity, asking permission, understanding my role. So not, you know, like really focusing on empowering and amplifying voices, taking where needed. And things that we've learned as some community. One thing that we agreed on is that local actions, local initiatives are really important. You know, we shouldn't demean the impact of just a community-based initiative. And I think that's actually where we should focus most of our energy and where we get the most joy out of it, because there are incredible ways, you know, focusing on a little community garden or municipal bylaw you want to change or something like that can fulfill you with a sense of community, can build those long-lasting networks of support and purpose. And sometimes we can get attracted to shiny things that seem like, oh, big, ooh, we'll be in the paper, ooh. But really it's this fuel of sustainable activism energy and a culture of activism that we want to foster here, so that people grow up in this culture of empowerment. Two other things I've learned are the importance of joy in activism. So, you know, not making meetings like this thing with a dry like agenda, and then you go step 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're good. Okay, see you next time. Bye. We really want to base our activism around fun and love and music, food, and that's what keeps people nurtured, and that's what keeps people coming back. And it makes activism more a practice of everyday life. And then finally, I'll just finish with the importance of vulnerability and building trust. And so something with youth that I really think is important is just being as genuine as you can. You know, like I'm not gonna bring any youth into the movement if I try to prop myself up or say, oh, you're amazing, yeah, come here. Like just honestly connecting with them, sharing my anxieties, hearing their anxieties, like having an open ear, being honest. That's what people really need to build that connection and feel like they connect to you. and want to connect to the world around them. So yeah, I'll finish with that. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be part of this and to meet all of you from around the world and hear all the amazing work you're doing. And I'm unfortunately maybe have to leave before the Q&A session because of a personal health reason. But I hope that we can meet again virtually or in person someday. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Julia, for bringing these many important points to our discussion. Um, Firstly, that you introduced yourself as a settler and immigrant on a land, on an indigenous land, which is a really important perspective that some of the movements are bringing now, but is still a very marginalized thing we see in the climate movements and generally in the world. And the interconnections of the indigenous sovereignty and the patriarchy and racism and the class justice, and they how interconnected they are. And I also really appreciate that you spoke about this mentality of the indigenous people as opposed to the materialistic mentality that moves the world since at least a few decades for now. As well as sharing your tactics and bringing very important aspects of self-care, of local aspects, of caring about people's happiness, and also being honest, which really helps to build trust and invite more people in being part of the movement. Thank you very much for your presentation and bringing all these very essential points, and wishing you very good health and hope to see you again. And now we will move to Anish, who is, Anish, are you here with us?
Yes, yes.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi, Anish.
Yeah.
So, yes, Anish is doing really great work in with the refugees, last communities, and building bridges between the rural spaces. So now we pass the word presentation, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jai Jagat, to everybody. Okay. Can you, it's okay? The sound is okay? Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah. First of all, I want to thank Rajaji team to give me this opportunity. And nice to see all these global young people who are really trying to really peaceful future. We are investing time for young people. So I am Manish and I am working with Ekta last around 20 years. And I came a part called India. There is a state called Kerala, which is our part, totally educationally, 100% education in our state. And now I am working in the North Indian part, where we are really trying to solve the issue of marginalized people, less people, uh, for the refugees. But normally we have the many migrants issues, many things. So what I'm trying to say that I was really listening all of you. There are many things which I with your presentation. And secondly, what I would say that after this 20 years long journey with Ekta Parishad, because Ekta Parishad mainly focusing three area. We are focusing dialogue, struggle, and constructive work. When you really want to have a real change, you want to really focus on the dialogue process. If the process is not really working out, good result, you want to be a system, so you will do the struggle. Once struggle and dialogue, you have some outcome. Then for example, people don't have land after the long struggle, land, piece of land. Then how we can support them to live within that land? So we will give the farming support, other activity support, and that kind of things. So that is what we are doing. But last 2 3 years, I am just focusing on the youth process, because everybody always spending their time to blaming young people. Youth are like this, youth are like that, without spending time with them. So even so, that is the issue. Uh, so we are trying to connect young people on the nonviolent platform based on faith and trust. So there are many meetings, organization is having consultation, youth empowerment activities, but they are really not empowering youth through giving proper training. So that is why we started a campaign called Arban. We started a campaign called Jagat. So classroom and training have their own limitations. You can have a training in the classroom, you can have a training in the rooms, but if you want to really empower, if you want to really mobilize young people on your trust, you want to take them to the field, interact them to the real issues. Normally we will say we have very strong rural groups in India. So we are trying to bring urban youth into rural parts. So, and normally we will say after the globalization, everything is open. So the same time we are also want to young people to focus on the localization also, because without localization, a local strength, you can't defeat globalization world. And today we are talking about the climate change, climate issue. People like us, we are no the word climate, it became a big word. People are, there are many climate campaigns going on, climate changing campaign. But the thing is, climate change, it's not an issue. How we can change our way of living. That is the point. So climate change, organic farming, these are the big campaign nowadays. So it is not really connecting as an individual to me. So how I can change, how my community can change the way of life, through that how we can change the climate. That we are trying to connect young people. So and always the other part is that there are all organization, all local organization, they have their own youth process. But normally in the Go Urban process, in our youth process, what we are trying to do that, if invest and invest, there is a two things which we want to focus. Young people who have the interest, we want to invest too much. Invest, it doesn't mean that resource, your time, your interaction, your experience. So interest and invest is like for the young people. And the same time, we also have a global process, because we have a global Google process now. Google became a really people have the feeling Google is the big university. Everything you can find Google. So in the education process, we have a process now, education based, far based education. So we're trying to organize young, please, you can focus on the education, near based education. Try to understand who is living nearby you, who is around your community, what is your, no, which land your grandparents came, where is it that land. So education is now far based education and near based education. And also the same time, we are saying poverty big issue, we want to remove the poverty from the community. But from my experience, we realize poverty is the best university to learn many things, because the new education, they have English, who will speak English, who will operate laptop, they are skilled. Who is cultivating our food, they are skilled. That mentality the young people have, the community is also responsible for that. So in the many way, we are trying to organize young people, connect young people, and organizing on the non-violent. At the same time, everywhere we are missing the spirituality, the value. All this development is based on profit. How we can give a discussion to the young people, there will be a based on value. There is a big in value-based development and profit-based development. When you are profit, you are losing many things. So this kind of some points, some we are taking, and we are having a very less money involvement on the youth process. To really want to promote the wisdom, and also we want to identify the skill of young. Accordingly, we want to take them take them on their own direction. So these are the some, and I think I have a small video that, so you will get an idea what we are really doing. I will say that youth is not a age-based things. People have the people have the feel it is only young people under 35 or 25. Youth is a spirit, and how we can identify that spirit, promote that spirit, how that will only new spirit on everywhere. So these are some points, and I will show you many activities. But I try to make all presentation. I think Gary will show that. Gary, when?
Yes, Anish bhai, just a sec.
India has long been a country dependent on land-based economy. 70% of people used to be devoted to agriculture alone. But as we move further into the 21st century, we see a decline in people involved in land-based activities. Out of 1.3 billion people, only 30% of people live in the urban cities. To feed such a mammoth population, we need more people in agriculture. With more than 65% of population under 35 years of age, the entire equation rests in the hands of youngsters. Back in 2017, when 40 young people from 5 Asian countries gathered in Indonesia for the conference organized by International Land Coalition and RMI Institute for Forest and Environment, the initiative called Securing the Future, Land Rights for Rural Youths was open. The main goal of this campaign is to realize rural youth activism for inclusive and sustainable development through promoting the role and initiative of rural youth in agriculture and access to land. As a follow-up of the event, many programs, training sessions, discussions, seminars, camps were organized to motivate the youth to engage with policymakers and stakeholders in their respective areas. One of the key and iconic programs that emerged out of a lot of brainstorming and planning was the Go Urban program, which was a combined initiative of Ekta Parishad and Ansh Happiness Society. The basic idea of Go Urban is to explore the shortcomings and highlights of both the urban and rural lifestyle. It is only through this exploration that we can build a bridge between both the ends and can actually be the combination of both rural and urban. It was through a series of discussions, workshops, marches, cultural programs and trainings that the urban youth realized that the rural people, especially youth, must be empowered to provide land-based opportunities. They should also have access to all sources of development and must be able to participate in bottom-up decision-making processes. To give more power to the land reform, women leadership is a very essential aspect. Subsequently, an all-women movement was organized, wherein 5 young grassroots women activists explored remote villages and tribal belts of the country to find and understand the extent of land-based issues in the country. Parallelly, a Go Urban camp was organized, which was entirely dedicated to the urban women who were trained to understand rural issues, the challenges in land-based livelihood, and the mindset of the rural youth. During all these initiatives, it was targeted that the youth should understand the current scenarios of the land-related issues and take ownership to advocate these issues, talk about them, act as influencers, and plan a definitive action with this understanding. With the latest Go Ruben camp culminating into Jan Andolan 2018, the young people realized the value of peace marches to talk about the land and farmer rights and how does it affect both the rural and urban youngsters. Jan Andolan 2018 was a peace march where 25,000 farmers had to walk 400 kilometers on foot demanding their rights. It was an inspiring sight to see young people from urban and rural background coming together and fighting for the rights of the poor and marginalized farmers.
Yes, Jay Jagat, I hope you enjoyed that.
Thank you very much for the presentation and also for the video, which gave us a better picture of the methods that you're actually applying, how you are working, and with what kind of people and what kind of that you brought to our discussion. That the youth is also often blamed of being not good enough or not doing anything, while when we speak about climate justice, it is often that the older generations have created all the mess around which the new generations have to change. And this work that you are doing for urban, bringing urban young people actually to the field to see the rural life, to do the work on land and see the people who live there. And it is really how effective that you presented, how effective it is when people not only do the learning in the school, but also that they work in the field. And I really enjoyed to learn about your concept of education from far and near-based education and how you combine these to create more effective learning for the young people. And really this question, maybe we can bring your last question to our debate in the second part. Create a discussion. We can't win the climate fight if we struggle based on materialistic or profit-made values. So I think yes.
Just repeat because we have lost the contact. Just repeat the question, please.
Yes, the question was how we bring in the discussion of spiritual values into the climate fight instead of profit-based discussion. Yes, so thank you very much again, Anish, and thanks to all the panelists. Before we go to the break, I would like to invite everyone, dear panelists, if you want to ask questions to each other, feel free to write it in the chat. And we will coordinate and ask the questions. And also, dear participants from all over the world, we encourage you to feel free and send us questions in the chat, and we will again classify them and write them during
we have some
during
problems.
the break. We to have a small break with. Yeah, is there a problem with my?
Just the last sentences is breaked. Just two last sentences, please.
Thank you, Isabel. Yes. So during the break, we ask the panelists and all the participants to write questions that you want to ask to discuss in the second part. And we will now go to a break for 5 minutes. There will be nice music, which you can enjoy and relax. And please join us. Join us for the continuation in 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay. Do you want to add something, Isabelle?
Si je veux ajouter quelque chose. Everything is perfect.
Congratulations.
Congratulations for everybody. I'm very touched about the people are very young, you know, today, but I'm very touched about the mature maturity. The young is I feel a deep level of maturity. I'm very, very touched about that. That's all.
So friends, we'll be heading for a 5-minute break, and I invite my friend Jay to come in.
We'll just play a small music video of Jagat's experience in Armenia. The Jagat Yatra began in India, and we had to pause in Armenia because of the COVID pandemic. So this is just to give you an idea of our journey through this. The song has been sung by Sirbuhi and Agabek, our friends from Armenia. And thank you. Please enjoy a 5-minute break.
ये फाइल पर जय जगत को बोली
सबके हित के वास्ते अपना सुख विसारे जा सबके हित के वास्ते अपना सुख विसारे जा जय जगत जय जगत जय जगत पुकारे जा जय जगत जय जगत जय जगत पुकारे जा सबके हित के वास्ते अपना सुख विसारे जा.
But in Armenian way, we should say. Hi, everybody's here. Yes, yes, fine. Fine, we speak together with Jean-Valentin et Ségolène. We are very touched about les témoignages, speakers. And the speaking is very deep. It's very interesting. Maybe we can, you can have questions together with pleasure, but maybe we can start upping. I don't know if you are right with me, but we can start with a question. When we hear about you, maybe I would like to know what are the emotions that lead you to commit to mobilize and to be an activist. Which emotion is moving on your heart? Who want to start? Maybe Sandy. I see you, Sandy. You want to answer, please?
Yes. The fact that I want a better society and a society that is not based on inequality and on oppression. And I think this is my this is why I'm a climate activist, and this is why sorry, I choose this combat, and this is yes, this is for justice. This is for because I want no more oppression about women, about minority people, about the fact that we are extract resources, too much resources, and yeah, it's really about inequality because there is some people that are very rich and there is some people that have nothing, and so I think this is why I choose to make something for the climate issue. I hope it answers the question.
Thank you, Sandy. And the other Anish, for example, what sort of emotions have you got on your heart to do what you do?
Actually, yeah, it's very interesting because I love the organic way growth in the organization and the process. So I'm really enjoying giving time to the young people, how much they are, because normally, you want to really influence them in a from their heart. So that is a very interesting thing, because normally we will say non-violent is like a very traditional medicine, and violence is like an English medicine. So it will take time process. I love the slow process of the mobilizing young people, empowering them. So normally, whenever you can see any youth activities, youth action, youth demonstration, almost all of that like a spontaneous. So slow process is something also we want to do with young people. Result may be very late, delay result, but it will be concrete. So I'm really enjoying that slow process to mobilizing young people on non-violent way. That is really, yeah.
Thank you so much. And yes, you hear me. Okay, Pauline, no, Julia in Canada, where are you?
No, she's left, she said.
Ah, she's left.
Yeah.
Okay. Jean-Valentin, which emotion, why you move?
Thank you. I think for me, it's a mix of different feelings, of different emotions. It's at the same time fear, anxiety, but also a lot of hope, I would say, because I'm studying environmental science, so I see every day the the problems and the issues concerning natural disasters, concerning biodiversity, concerning everything. And when you see that, it's quite it can be depressive. I don't know if you say that, but I think you really have to be a bit optimistic and see it that way to move on and to build actions, to build projects. I mean, for me, it's sometimes very different because one day I wake up and I'm like, oh no, we're not going to solve this. We won't. It's going to be very difficult. And the other day I just wake up and I'm like, okay, we'll do this, and so it's quite. It depends on the day, but I think we really have to be optimistic to move on.
Okay. Thank you, Jean-Valentin. And Monica, and you, what is in your heart? Which emotion
Motivates
is what
motivates you?
Motivate you? Which
To be an
emotion
activist.
motivates you to be an activist and to do what you do?
Yes, well, yeah, I mean, a bit as Jean, I think it's a mix of emotions. As I said at the beginning, I think, I mean, we were with a lot of anger because of the whole situation, like to realize that a lot of things was happening and we really had such normalized everything. So we were not able like to understand that we could do something about that, no? So that's yeah, that anger, and which is also at the same time fear, no? Because you know that when we see that a lot of, I mean, the most of the missing people is and killed people is young people. So it's also like to realize that it can happen to you, or that it is also like it is about you, no? It's not only about demand truth and justice for them, but also for the ones who are already who are still there, no? So yeah, I think that's what moved me first. And yeah, I think as well, I have in all this process like feeling hopeless sometimes, no? As Jean, I think it's part of it, and I think it is not totally bad, no? Like I think we need to sort of learn to live with that conflict, like in the middle of like knowing that there are a lot of things that are happening, and that's why I think it is important to share this space, no? Like know that all these inspiring stories, and know that it is possible to do small changes and so on. But at the same time, I think we have realized that it's still not enough. It's still not enough, and that's why we are here at the same time, right? Because we still need to do a lot of things, and maybe different, no? Maybe more radical, like, no, in the terms of going to the roots of the problems, and no, but I think so I think are both things, no? Like knowing that we are doing things, but knowing that we still need to do more.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you. We have a question of one of participator. I read you, please.
From Riva.
It's
Joshi.
from Riva Joshi. I wanted to thank and congratulate all of the panelists. As an educator, I wonder how the panelists think the current formal education systems are supporting them in their work, and what they would like to see change in those systems. Please, who want to answer from you? Who want to answer? Maybe do a finger up.
Just can you repeat the last part of the
Okay.
question, please?
Est-ce que tu peux la répéter?
Okay. Okay, hi. So Reva Joshi wanted to know actually how the current formal education systems are supporting you in your work, and what are they doing basically? What would you like them to do, and to see how those systems are changing? Basically, how would you like to see changed in those systems? Is that clear?
Clear? Monica, do you want to start? Yes.
Yes, I'm not in the university anymore, right? So it's hard to say, but from the time I was there, um, I think the university was a support in the term because we were like developing this project also like with like everything start there, no, in the classrooms. Then we start with our by ourselves, and then we had this research project in the university. So I think that platform helped us, and also like covering us a little bit in terms of you know, we have a lot of repression here for people who is doing stuff, so it's not the same like to do stuff in the name of a university. I think it helps a lot. um and but yeah, I mean, the thing is, I would expect that the university, with all the power it has, um, can respond and can be more focused on contribute to solve the issues that are happening in national level, and to relate the the classes, the lessons with that, no, like we felt, for example, no, that it was a bit like I don't know, like strange to be studying something, and we were studying social mediation and so on, that how we can just be reading stuff, no theory and so on, and the world is collapsing outside us, no, our friends were not there, were missed. So, and so we how can we like link the knowledge we build in the classrooms, no, because I think it is important to have theory and to understand and to conceptualize, but to respond and to transform our lives outside these spaces, no. So I think the university will, but also all the educational system has like this challenge, no, to make it more more based on the experience and the reality of the guys and the people who is studying there. And yeah, I think that's the most important thing.
Okay, thank you, Monica. And Jean-Valentin, Sandy, or Anish, what do you think about that?
So thank you for the nice question. What I want to say that I am not in the university, but my feeling is that every day I'm entire life is a university. So every day I'm learning many things. So we don't want to keep that we university you are not learning, you are trying to teaching. And second thing, just want to say the two kind of education is the new education process, the ongoing education process is really disconnecting people. They are creating big disconnection. Not only it is really disconnect. The new education process, on education process, is a disconnection process. Disconnecting people from the nature, disconnecting parents, disconnecting farmers from land. It's creating more disconnection. The new the ongoing process. But there is a two kind of education: education for life and education for all this ongoing education. You will have a certificate, then you will go with that certificate to some company or wherever, then you will get a job. As a Gandhian organization, as a non-violent way, Gandhi was saying life. You don't want to believe everything on a small piece of certificate. So this question, my answer is that new education process, formal education process is creating a, a machine, a very baby, the 3 year 4 year child, the nice dream and everything, but 3 years we are putting those children's child into a system called education. After 10 or 15 years it is coming out as a non-sensitive tool. After the education process, they have no sensitivity, they have no kindness, they have no love for people, they have no love for nature. So the new ongoing education process is really a challenge. Whatever we need, we want to change the ongoing education process. That's what I believe personally, and our organization too. So all education only for a job. Education is only for life. How you can get a confidence to sustain a life. So we want to promote informal education more. The ongoing formal education is really became a big issue for people like us, and all this issue. They are creating these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Anish. Jean-Valentin or Sandy, do you want to answer something?
Sandy, you wanted to say something? No, it's okay. So I think if I see how it's going on here in schools in Switzerland, I think it's moving on. It's moving on slowly, but the teachers and the educators here are getting more and more interested about the climate issues and also nonviolence. And that is why we also got to do workshops here. We had the chance to do them quite easily, and I think that is a chance we have with the system here in Switzerland. And as far as I know, there's also in the states where I live in here, the government decided, for example, to put in place a group of teachers and politicians to work on on working on these issues for the educational system, and how we can bring this global and transversal approach to the educational system. But it's moving on quite slowly, so I think there's a lot to do still concerning that, because if you see how the education is built here, it's very very how to say still individual, and there's a lot to do, I think, in regards to the peace and nonviolence, and how we can insert that in the different subjects you're studying at school and everything. And I think at university it's quite the same. And also, if you have a job right now here, I feel it's quite difficult if you don't have enough money to do it, to switch from an actual job to something you would like to do that is better for society and better for the environment. And that's also why there are some scientists here, for example, thinking about a transition revenue that would be given by the state to be able to switch from a job you're doing right now to another one, or to build a project that is good for society and the environment. So that these are the things that are thought about here, but it's difficult because politics, and they don't think it's a good idea. So I'm a bit I think there are some good news, but there's still a lot to do in education.
Thank you, Jean-Valentin. Sandy, do you want to say something? Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
I think in France it's a little bit like in Sweden, so it's a bit similar. You know, in France at school we teach us that we have to find a job in order to take money, in order to have money, in order to be rich. This is the kind of education. And when I was younger, my teacher of math told me that I do not have to do literature studies, because I will not have job, because I will not have no money. So it's better. It will be better for me if I work on international commerce, on economics, and everything like that. So I think this is the big issue. So we must change, I think, all the courses in France. we must talk about ecology, solidarity, non-violent communication in order to know how settle conflicts and everything like that. This is so important. And you know, in France, many people do not even know how to grow fruits or vegetables. And I think this is the base, and we must learn those kind of basic things to the young people and to people. So it will be really better than talking about economy, talking about crisis, talking about money and everything like that. So I think this is the first issue. And the other things I think is about, you know, last year we have also a climate strike in France, and I was a little bit part of this. And I think in those kind of movements, professors and teachers must be in the street with the people, with the young people, to help them, and in order to change the system. So I think this is the second issue. And to conclude, I think that when you are a young activist that and you want also to continue your study, it's not really easy to do both at the same time, because people do not always understand why you are especially when you are doing civil disobedience. People are not understanding why your professor do not understand, and if you put it into your motivation later in order to go to university if you want to, because in my case I want to do, for example, public policies, and if I said that I make civil disobedience, I will not be, maybe I will not be privileged, but that's okay. So that's I think this is the three issues about the school in France.
Thank you, Sandy. Arpine, yes, I give
Thank you
you
so much for
yes.
Thank you very much. We have another question for the participants, and Ginny from the UK is asking, can you tell us examples of local or like different or national level of actions that have changed something during your struggle? So if you can think or can remember some activities, some period, some pictures or parts of the struggle which really stayed in your memory, you think they were so effective and they changed something, we would ask you to share this with everyone. I can't see. Does someone want to go first? Maybe Jean-Valentin, do you want to
Yes,
answer?
Arpine, you must choose someone.
Okay, he's the next. He's the first in my screen.
Thank you. It's a very
So,
good question, and
so
I think
please.
it's important to share the projects everyone had in his or her country. And so here in Switzerland, I would say I participated in two projects that had a really big impact. The first one would be, and also generally in Switzerland, the first one would be the climate march and climate strike we had last year in September, which was the biggest in the history of Switzerland. And it was all about, well, before we had climate strikes in every city in the country, and still now. But last year, a lot of climate organizations organized a strike that was centralized in the capital of Switzerland. So there were people from all over the country that went to Bern, the capital, and that had, I think, a really big impact afterwards in the decisions in politics. So I would say that was some impact, but then also the projects I'm working on the local level. To really have projects on the local level, you see a big impact as well, I think. And for example, here in the village I live in, we are working with the municipality to propose some measures, to propose projects that we could do with the population here, and to really get in contact with them and to speak with them was something that was very useful. And so basically, I would say that were the two projects I worked on that had a lot of impact.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to answer? Anish, yes, please.
So yeah, there are many stories which when we are working with the rural people, because Ekta Parishad is mainly working on the rural issue, but I'm just taking the again one young youth success story, because all of you remember the tsunami which is happened in 2005. Because whenever there is a disaster, many organization, many people will come with the big banner of the organization and do something little, and they will show the banner big way. So the initial stage, there will be kind of competition of the relief work. After the tsunami, we went to the South Indian part, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. We really went a youth group from a national group from a different part of India. We just show that what kind of competition is happening in between different organization to do the relief work. They want to show we are doing many things, doing a small, really they are doing a small things. But with these young people, we decide that we want to do anything on the name of the banner or on the name of Ekta Parishad. We started the cleaning part. Slowly, we took all this, cleaning the toilet, cleaning the relief camp, all those things. And slowly we get well connected with the families who is really affected from the tsunami. Then slowly we get into the young people who can take care of the children's, and we a group of 35 people slowly, and we had a small walk. Normally in the relief camp, all organizations and everybody is going and asking people how many children you lost, your father is died. No, they have a daily the survey process, and we are just entering the relief camp, starting the songs, programs. And the first time they're really shouting, oh, I lose my daughter, I lose my father, and these people are really laughing, clapping. And slowly they will stop their criticism and starting listening us. Then slowly starting clapping with us. And then we can slowly smiling, dancing with us. So that change, that is the idea of the urban young people who really, in other way. Imagine we organize a 45 days children's camp by 450 children's, 3 different camps run by these 45 young youth from those area. So it was amazing for me, because whenever you will go to the disaster area, you will do some food, you will do some clothes, you will do something, with your big banner. But we did quite opposite side way, singing, dancing. So we just take their mind out of that disaster, and they totally connected with us, and they send all of children to us. We took care of them more than 1.5 months. We take out all those children from the Tarma, and these young educated some kind of youth people was taking care of children of those village. And now whenever you will go that area, after now it is 2020, all you can see Jagat Ekta Parishad people are now really working together without forming a real structure things. So these kind of new ideas young people have in their own mind. So we want to really try to learn from young and childrens. We are not not the people who are always trying to teach them. We are trying to teach childrens. We are trying to teach youngs. Also, the point is when we will start learning, try to learn from children, try to learn from young youth. So that's one of amazing memorable things in my life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other hands from the panelists or are there? No. So I would ask the next question. We have another question first, and thanking you for your presence. Very young people to get more
Hold on.
involved in this effort.
Hold
Shall I
on.
repeat?
Monica wants to say something, I guess.
Okay,
I think
didn't
so,
see that.
Monica. Yes, that's right, Monica?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
just to share one of our maybe one of the good things now that came out of these processes of demanding truth and justice for our fellows was when the last disappearance of a girl of the university, we could mobilize a lot of students and professors. We made some letters, and we were able to have finally a dialogue with the authorities, and they so it we conform a group of support of this particular case. But what it is most important, I mean, they were providing legal support, and they were with this group we were able also to support other cases outside the university. And yeah, it is still like running and giving legal support and political support to some cases of girls who have been missed. So I think yeah, that was a good like example of how mobilization and like if we press, no, we can have something, we can reach something.
Thank you, Monica. It is really very amazing to see how these examples of also emotionally being part of the movements and supporting other people stays in our memory and really empowers us. Thank you. Sandy, did I miss, or did you want to also talk about this or
Yes,
the next? Yes,
if it's possible.
sure.
Yes,
Of
thank you.
course.
Thank you. I just want to talk about an example in France, near to Paris. There are large, rich agricultural lands, and on those agricultural lands, a company had planned to build a gigantesque shopping center, like with a fake ski slope in this shopping center. So a complete idiot project. And this project was planned to build on those rich agricultural lands. So of course, this project would reduce agricultural lands, make air pollution, kill the local economy and the local commerce. And of course, this type of project is endorsing the global warming. So in front of this project, the local population has mobilized. They settled on the land. They stayed there. They opposite to the project. And in order to oppose to this project, they have proposed an alternative, and they show what they could also do on these lands, like biological agriculture, in order to make Paris and the city in front of Paris really resilient in the future. And so with all this mobilization, the government, and this was at the national level, they decide to stop this project. And so I think that's why it's important to say that the civil mobilization at the local level can really have an impact at the national level, and to stop some stupid project.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And the person who asked this question is also thanking you from UK, saying thank you very much for all the examples. And another question that we have is how do, excuse me, it's better if I read it out. It is that how we can encourage other young people to get more involved in these efforts. And I'm thinking maybe we can also connect it to the question which Anish and Jean Valentin and maybe also Julia brought during their panels about the values of the climate change movements and the profit-based values compared to the new values or spiritual values. So if you want to ask to any part of this question, please go on. Thank you. Do I have to pick up the part, the first person?
Yes,
Okay.
I think so.
So
Shifumi, Sandy, you go on.
I can, but I think Anish has a point. So if you want to start, with pleasure. You don't want to start? I can, but
he
yes, go
unmuted
for it.
himself.
Sorry, go for it. Sorry.
No, please, Sandy, you can. I will answer, please.
Okay, but I don't have a, a specific answer. I'm how to encourage young people. I think it's the same things with other people, young or not. I will say that the important is to. I think what is working with my friend is to. I don't know this word, but it's to show the example. Is just to show that we can change things, that we can also take the power, and that we can be happier when we are creating another society, and when you are showing all these things and all the happiness that activism can give you. I think it inspire other people, other young people. So this is what I will say.
Thank you, Sandy.
So Anish,
Yeah. Can I? So I don't know. Actually, I just want to say that how we can strengthen the youth mobilization process. Whenever you will work with any community, you want to give them more space, and you want to create a kind of trust. So especially because last, as I told earlier, last 2-3 years I am more focusing on the youth activities. All organization, all institution who is working on different issues, they have their own uh, eyes to mobilize young people, which is also creating a division within the youth. So who is working on land, they want their own youth group. Who is working on education, they want their own youth group. Who is working on health, they want their own group. It's also we are creating a handicapped young group, because young people, they have their own view, their own idea, their own interest. Again, I will tagline the slow process. You want to give more and more space to these young people, want to identify their interest. You want to interact different organization with your young people. They may be work with your neighbor organization, they may be work with other organization, they may be work with your organization. You don't want to block them, you can only work with my organization, my issue. So different young people have their own interests. So we want to decentralize the youth process. We want to young people. And according to the young people's interest, you want to make different interesting group. There are many young people who are actively interest on the cultural activities. There are many people, they can't physically do anything, but they will write a lot about your activities. There are many people, they don't write, they don't read, but they are full time with you. They can physically support your activities. So you can't put all young people, all mobilization things in a one basket. You want to identify their interest. According their interest, you can create a group, and how their interest can work on your ongoing issue. for example, climate change or whatever. So that is the way which we are really using the reverse way. Organize them, mobilize them, give them more and more space, so they will come because they can identify their space within our ongoing activities. Otherwise, we are disconnecting. If we will make like a kind of horse riding, not looking here and there, only according your organization, you want to mobilize youth, that is really disconnecting young people from our ongoing things. So the more part is that giving more space to young people than the institution, giving more space to young people than your movement. The second thing is that ownership. We are saying we have youth group, but how much ownership you are giving to the young people? We will always use them as an audience. We will always use them as a faces to show somewhere. Are you really ready to leave your place and give them full ownership? When you will give the ownership, they will come and take it, and then you will be on the background. They will lead the things. So that different way we have. So that is very important. Otherwise, we want to admit that we are no more youth. Every year, every time, generation is changing. The way of working is changing. The new people have their own new idea. Give them ownership. There may be some plus minus, but we will talk to them. We will give the direction. But giving ownership to the real young people, because how much I can go to the campuses and university and talk about the issue, it is very less than the young people directly. We will teach young people, they will go and mobilize young people. It is totally different. They can mobilize 100,000 people, I can mobilize 1,000 people. Because the way of communication, attraction, everything are changing every year. So make youth as an ambassador, give them full ownership, give them full space, and trust them, and give, if they need a direction, give it. That is the way. Otherwise, we will say we have 1,000 young people with us, but we are controlling. We are on the driving seat, they are as a passenger. Okay. Give them the driving seat. Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
No, we are running out of time. We are running out of time, unfortunately. Yes. So if we can maybe have Jean-Valentin or Monica, did you want to add something on the question?
No, yes, I think it is very important what Anish has said. It's that what we call autonomy, and I think that's very important, at least from my experience. No, like I think we could start doing and developing all this because we felt that we have the autonomy to do it. Like we felt like free to experience, knowing that we could be wrong, but like knowing that that's like the learning process, that we could do it with our own ways, with our own ideas of what is that we wanted to achieve and so on. So I think it is important to always keep in mind that we need to like promote the autonomy of the youth in all these spaces. And also I think with we can engage more people, not only young but people in general, by sharing stories, and that's what we saw also in our experiences. We could get more people involved in the demands of the missing people because we shared like stories. We share like what is about those people was related with us, like in terms of their identities, like share like stories from the people who is there, like demanding justice, and peace. So I think that's also very important for engagement in all people.
Okay, thank you, Monica. And one word to conclude, Jean-Valentin, yeah.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say that I connected also with what you said, Anish, and I think it's something we are also trying to push here in Switzerland, is really to have a dialogue with other people and with associations, with politicians, so that we can also have our voice heard. And so I think that is also very, very important. And how do we get to more people involved? I think it's it's a difficult question because maybe you experience it as well also in other countries. But for example, here, I feel like it is difficult to get more people involved, especially young people, because in the projects I work for I working, for example, it's a lot of people are always doing the project. It is always the same people, I would say, and so it is difficult to find young people. But I think it's something we can discuss further on, and I'll be happy to also share my experience and to learn also from other young people in the world and how they manage this. So I think we really have to discuss this.
Of course we will. Thank you, Jean-Valentin. We at the end, yes, of the time. We must conclude now, okay? I'm very touched about this moment. I think it's an honor for us to be with you and to follow. We have a lot of congratulation message, you know, of some people. Arpine, it's okay. So it was so interesting, and we have a question just now, but we haven't time to
Yes, I think I agree.
Continue. Absolutely, we can talk 2 hours again about migrants and refugees, but we haven't time. It was very very
inspiring.
Yes,
for all of us.
Very touched. You are so funky and sunny, young people. Very touched. Arpine, you want to finish? Do you want to say something to finish?
Yes, and a lot of questions that yes, it is really a special moment, and I want to value this opportunity that we can be together from different continents, from different parts of the world, and share experiences, because often we don't have this privilege and this opportunity to hear from each other. And I would like to encourage maybe all of us to stay in touch together, and if we have something that we want to share, also to share it with each other, or ask each other solidarity and support in our movements, because sometimes this international aspect helps a lot. And I know that the COVID times are changing a lot for us, because also here, and I heard from you that in all your movements and activism, you work with the people, you spend time with physically doing activities with people, and now we have lockdowns, which changed a lot in our activist methods. And I wish to all of us that we find good alternatives, you know, and viable alternatives for non-violent action and for everything else. So thank you, and really deep presentations. And Isabel, it was an honor to co-facilitate with you. And we will soon conclude our, we will now basically conclude our webinar. Probably Jill would like to come in and say a final word.
Yes, it would be great. Jill.
Yes,
well,
she
okay.
promised us to do that.
What can I say? You're all helping us to understand the ways forward in working with youth and to make change in the society. And judging from the questions and the comments, it's been very, very rich discussion. So may I take the opportunity to thank Monica, Jean, Valentine, Anish, Arpina, and Julia, and who have I missed? Isabel, for this wonderful, wonderful interaction. Please be aware that next Saturday, next Wednesday rather, is the final 2-hour session, and a week from tonight is a full day webinar on nonviolent leadership. And for me, I take from this moment that you're all experimenting with leadership and nonviolence. And so I encourage you to join next week's session. So thank you very much. And Jai Jagat to Isabel and to all of you from your different locations. We will conclude with a musical. I want you to stay to listen to this musical presentation by Janmajay so that we can find in the music the unity to continue to stay together and be together in future. So the Janmajay and the other technical team, many, many thanks. We will now conclude with our final presentation. Jai Jagat.
Jai Jagat, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for this wonderful session. We shall end the session now. Thank you everyone for this wonderful session. We shall end the session now. Thank you everyone.